Hey guys, welcome to this week's Real Deal video blog. And this week I want to talk to you about something that pretty much everyone has to deal with in life at some point, and that's stress. Everyone experiences stress to some degree at different times. Something like work or school, whatever your daily occupation is, that can be really stressful if you've got a big deadline coming up, or you're not getting along with your colleagues or classmates, or maybe someone like your boss is pushing you really hard and being kind of a jerk, or you feel like you're not doing well. That can all be really stressful, and that stress and anxiety can really keep you up at night. I think we've all been there at some point. And home life can be stressful too if you're not getting along with your family or your roommates, or whoever you live with. Maybe you're in a situation where you're not sure if you can pay rent, or your place is really messy. That can all be really stressful, and the home is supposed to be somewhere where you can go home and relax, so that can be even more problematic. Pretty much any situation in life can cause stress. There are an infinite number of sources it can come from pretty much anywhere, and stress is a real killer. It's bad for your health. It can cause things like stomach issues, can cause lack of sleep, and not to mention it's even possible for long-term effects, serious health consequences from long-term stress. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I know that people can suffer from things like heart issues, things like that. And it's just not good for your mental health to feel stressed all the time. No one wants to feel like they're constantly just being stretched too thin and worrying all the time. That's just not good. No one wants to feel that way. But there's one group of people who are especially vulnerable to stress, and that's people who are in recovery from addiction. One thing that I really can't stress enough, and that we've talked about over and over in our video blogs and really all the content that Real Deal puts out, because we believe in this strongly, is that addiction is much, much more than simply being unable to stop using drugs and alcohol. It's obviously the defining feature of addiction is being unable to stop using drugs and alcohol in spite of consequences, and in spite of the serious things that are happening due to the use, and sometimes being in denial about it, and all the stuff that goes along with it. But addiction is really much more complex than that under the surface. Addiction is this whole system of thoughts and behaviors that exists in someone long before drugs and alcohol even come into the picture at all. Someone just doesn't try a drink and become an alcoholic like magic. They've got the groundwork laid inside them already. And to put it simply, people who struggle with addiction just aren't well adapted to life like normies, as they call them, are. They simply don't have the tools they need to deal with things like stress in a healthy way. And that just doesn't go away when they stop drinking or using. There's this kind of popular notion that all someone has to do is go to treatment and stop drinking and get sober, and they'll be good to go. But it really doesn't work that way. And they might be sober, but they still don't have those tools that they need to deal with the ups and downs of everyday life. And stress can be very dangerous for them as a result. It's really, really easy to turn to that thing that will make you feel better instantly when you're not having a good time. So in recovery, two things are really, really important. The first one is managing stress. The most obvious thing is just to avoid it whenever possible. If you're thinking about taking on a second job, or taking an extra class, or working in a stressful environment, and you know that you're not going to handle it very well, maybe reconsider if you should do it at all. And that part is obvious, but also it means dealing with problems head on. So if you've got a confrontation that you need to have, or something that you need to deal with it instead of just letting it build up over time and get worse and worse. It means keeping your mind and body healthy, so that might mean something like watching your diet, making sure you exercise regularly, getting enough sleep, practicing meditation. These are all things that can go a long, long way towards reducing stress. There are many, many stress management techniques that can be learned, and they're skills like any other. These are things that are taught in counseling, and and rehab, but there's nothing that stops you from just Googling stress management techniques or talking to your friends who seem like they're really healthy and well adjusted. And then the second part is a little bit more abstract, but it's simply learning to live without drugs and alcohol. And that's not as easy as it sounds for someone who has struggled with addiction. But this means developing a support network, being part of a recovery community, attending meetings, exploring spirituality, those stress management techniques that I talked about. There's a reason that this stuff is stressed so heavily in treatment centers and meetings. It's because it works. So if you're feeling stressed out, don't worry. You are not alone. It is totally normal to feel this way sometimes, but it's up to you whether or not you want to do something about it.